Good morning. How's everyone doing? No Nick today, which is quite sad. We'll be back. We're gonna make a bunch of conference tournament preview videos tomorrow and release them throughout the week. Would love to get a few more numbers here before I start, just because we were doing really well when it was both of us. So I know the solo stream's not as good, but I still got a bunch for y'all today. Got the top 3 games of the day. Went back and watched all these first matchups and got a lot to say on them, and I want to help. So let me see what we got in the chat going on. What up, Austin? Appreciate you. If you're here, like, make some noise for me, please. Because it's a lot harder to get this done when I don't have anyone to play off of. I need the chat. If you're in the chat, holler at me, please. I'm gonna get going in a few minutes in depth, but I'd like to not be talking completely too. I'm seeing 3 heads right now, which is not ideal. So I'm going to give it a few minutes. If not, I'll just go. All right, we'll just rock with the chat. I'll get into the breakdowns if more people get on, but yeah, I mean, UConn's so good right now. In that first matchup, Providence played as well as they possibly could have. They kind of need Devin Carter and Oduro to carry them. We've seen them do that, especially in that building. It gets so loud. It means everything to them. It's a kind of win and you're in situation of the tournament. So I expect Providence to bring their A game, but man, like when you watch a team like Villanova walk into the dunk and just be like, damn, they got way more. It's like there's levels to this. Like, I mean, take the points. The Friars will play hard, but man, it's going to be tough. I mean, maybe UConn's looking a little ahead to the Big East tournament and in the NCAA tournament, but I don't know. The way that Hurley has them playing, I'll be surprised to see them not come away with a win, but Friars can definitely hang around, and defend their asses off here. Klingon's just such a hard matchup. Like, how does Oduro not get in foul trouble? Castro's going to have to give some good minutes. All right, a couple more heads trickled in. Make some noise if y'all are there, please. I'd appreciate it in the chat. Need all the help I can get here without Nick. I've got these games I blocked off, have words to say on, thought ones that y'all are going to want to hear about. Kentucky, Tennessee, Carolina, Duke, Kansas, Houston are my 3 games. I have a ton to say on each of these 3, like a ton. I went back and watched them all. I did a bunch of research. So, if you guys want to hear from one of these 3 specifically, speak up and I'll get into that. But if the chat's not saying anything, man, I feel like I'm going crazy right now without Nick. So the chat to heads ratio is weak right now. Can I get something in the chat, please? I'm begging. Double digits, let's go. That's huge. Chat, where are we at? Come on, give me something, please. Don't be shy. What game do we want to hear first? Kansas, Carolina, Kentucky? Or a random one? No? What up? Brian, I appreciate you. The menu does look solid. What up, Benny? Now we're talking. All right, we're getting active. Which one? I need someone to step up. Which one of these 3 games you want to hear about first? Which one of these 3 games you want to hear about first? Brian, all right, Kentucky. Here we go. Kentucky, Tennessee. Just went back and watched this one. Tennessee won 103-92. Kentucky was favored by 1.5 in that game. So if you look at the 3-point swing you get from home court, right, the other way, it's 6 points in total. So this line is basically valuing these teams exactly how they were valued last time they played. And Kentucky entered that game losing 3 of 6. That was when they lost a couple home games. And then, since then they're 7-2. They beat Gonzaga and then they lost to LSU at the buzzer. What stands out to me about that Kentucky-Tennessee game at Rupp is Tennessee started 4 of 5 from 3. And it wasn't even Connect going crazy. It was Vescovi, Josiah Jordan-James, and Ziegler. And there was just no resistance on the ball. Ziegler would just bring the ball up the floor and just bam, bam, get into the paint. 1 pass, 2 passes, and they're in. And if Connect got the ball, it was like they were doubling him. He still did Connect things, but he didn't go crazy. The reason that Tennessee won that game is because Ziegler carved. And Ziegler, James, and Vescovi were combined 10 and 19 from deep. Is that something Tennessee's going to replicate today? Those guys, none of those guys shoot above 35% on the season. We know who those players are. We've seen them time and time again. They're good 3-point shooters. They can have good 3-point shooting games, but what they did at Rupp was crazy. It was before the under 16 timeout. Rob Dillingham hadn't even checked into the game yet, and Tennessee's up 11. And then, mind you, Dillingham checks in and scores 11 points in the next 3 minutes because he is absurd. But Dillingham's defense was horrible in this game. Ziegler was getting by him every time. There was miscommunications. I have my concerns about Kentucky defensively. Tennessee could just come in and just smoke him. But you look at what Kentucky's done on the road this year. They've been in every single game, except for that game at South Carolina, which was early conference play. You walk in there and just kind of get punched in the mouth by a South Carolina team that no one really thought was good yet. But other than that, Kentucky is, obviously you go and beat Auburn, right? That was a huge statement, but it's A&M, Florida, they're in all of these games that they're playing on the road, and the way that they can score the basketball, I have so much confidence that Tennessee's not going to be able to just lock them up. There's just too much offensive talent, and then Kentucky's deeper, right? It's Tennessee's got Adu, and then they bring a Walker off the bench. It has he's 6'8", he's a good energy big, but Kentucky's got more looks that can go in the front court. He can go Bradshaw and Yenso, Big Z, or Mitchell, and the shooting talent's crazy. DJ Wagner didn't play last game. You see the total's 166.5. We are expecting this to be up and down, right? Tennessee is new Tennessee now because of Connect, and they can really score the basketball. They like to play with pace. They're not just trying to grind you out in the half court, and it's not like they have a bunch of 7-footers or just bringing off the bench or crashed offensive glass and stuff. Tennessee is different. All this to say, I don't know. Tierra's a good body to throw at Dalton Connect. That's a big, solid, strong dude who can guard. And Kentucky, I feel has guarded better on the road. I don't know if it's they're a little cocky at home because they know they can score so much, but I don't know, man. I'm definitely leaning Kentucky here. I haven't played it yet, but I think getting 7.5 for a team that can score this much, you're making the bet understanding look, Tennessee could just run away if they're shooting it well, but I don't know, man. I just don't think when I went back and watched that game at Rupp, it's those three dudes, Vescovy, Josiah Jordan-James, and Zakai Ziegler were hitting every three. And I just don't think they're going to do that again. So thoughts on the under in this game, John? All of these Kentucky, Alabama, even Arkansas totals are so high that I always am shoot, should I at least think of the under? But I don't know. They just always seem to go over. I never play these overs because they're just so high. But I played the under at Tennessee Auburn, and that was just dead immediately. But yeah, I don't know. Chat, if you guys are telling me if you're on Kentucky or Tennessee here. I don't know. Like I said, that one game where Kentucky wasn't in the game on the road or won was when they went at South Carolina. South Carolina shot 11 for 24 from deep. To me, I really think they'll be able to do I'm not saying they're going to lock up Connect, but Tiero, even Edwards, those are good, strong, athletic, quick bodies to throw at him. And Connect can kind of do whatever he wants, but you can kind of contain him. And Tennessee's a top 5 team. They're a clear championship contender. We've seen Kentucky kind of be a yo-yo and up and down, but they've elevated on the road. They can score the shit out of the ball. And I don't know. I think the shooting regression from that last matchup, I just don't think Tennessee's going to shoot that ball. So that's my take on this game. I can get into Carolina Duke right now. I have a lot there. I can get into Kansas Houston. I'm sorry, dude. I got nothing here. I know High Point almost lost yesterday, but that's not my lane. I'm not getting into the Seiko stuff yet. What up, Connor? So, what? Can I get some context here? I did not see that. Can I get some context here, Connor? What are you talking about? What do they have to do with Terrence Shannon? What? Oh my God, I didn't see this yesterday. Oh, they're just testifying. It doesn't mean they did anything wrong. Maybe they were just around. That's crazy. They obviously didn't do anything wrong. They might have just been there. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So, I found something, but all right, that's wild. I don't know if that's another layer to this that I didn't know, but let me talk basketball quick about Kansas Houston, right? So in this first matchup, kind of like that Tennessee-Kentucky game, although Tennessee was the road team, Kansas at home jumped out to a lead against Houston. They hit 4 of their first 5 threes, and all of them were not wide open threes. This is what Kansas was doing against Houston, right? DeJuan Harris would have the ball, or the ball handler would have the ball, and when KJ Adams or Hunter Dickinson would set a screen, and then Houston would double the screen, they would immediately make a a little push pass over the top or a bounce pass, and it was a 4-on-3 basically because those two Houston, you got the Houston guard and the Houston big coming out on the ball and doubling, right? But Kansas was so good at getting that ball out that when they did that, like Adams could go make a play, drive to the basket. Dickinson could make a play, drive to the basket. Or you could skip it to the weak side and find a Furphy or McCullough spotting up for three, and even Harris. And like those guys were hitting those shots. And on the other end of the floor, Houston was getting pretty good looks and not hitting them as much. Another thing is just like Dickinson gets doubled so hard on the catch. Like Houston's so good at that. Was crazy. First half stat from that game. Kansas was 17 of 25 from the field in the first half and had 9 turnovers at halftime. So they turned the ball over more than they missed a shot, which meant their offense was kind of like a home run, right? It's like we're either going to get a really good shot or we're going to turn the ball over because they were able to make plays out of that 4-on-3 when they did get the ball to Adams and Dickinson. But when they couldn't get the ball to them or they tried to force a pass, they turned the ball over. That being said, my concerns about Houston are JoJo Tugler being hurt matters a lot. He played 34 minutes in this game. That was also because Francis got hurt at the beginning of this game. But Tugler was doing a really good job on Dickinson. Like he is such a good defender, and that just makes Houston thinner. Like Arsenault was already out. I saw that Shed is dealing with knee tendonitis, and then Roberts has like a messed up hand, like that was stitched together in his crutch. So like that a little bit scares me about Houston. Just like being pretty thin right now. But from like watching that game against in Fog, like Kansas was hitting like Kansas a lot when Kansas is away when the ball was trying to go in the basket, and like they turned over the ball 20 times and still won by double digits against Houston. Like that doesn't make sense. Like Cryer, Shed, Sharp, like were able to kind of do what they want on the perimeter. And when they made Dickinson come out kind of guarding screen actions, like then they could crash the glass well. So, I mean, I don't know if this off the court Kansas stuff matters, Connor, that you bring up. Like, okay, you said in their witnesses. I bet it's a distraction, but I'll bring it back to we thought the Alabama stuff was a distraction last year with Brandon Miller, right? And then they absolutely cruised to the number 1 overall seed. So sometimes I don't know how much weight to give to some of this off court. Tyrese Radford got arrested on A&M, played the next day, and like had a pretty good game. So sometimes I don't want to put too much weight into those narratives. But yeah, like I said, so Bill Self has a really good game plan of how to counter the Houston pressure by using their passing bigs and getting the ball to them immediately after the screen comes and when the double arrives. But Houston in Kansas, as you can see on my little chart, is that from KenPom, they're number 1 in assists per field goals made. And if you see Houston on the other end of the chart, that bottom blue square is their assists per field goals made a lot. Like they want teams to beat them with assists. That's what Houston wants you to do, right? Like if you drive in, kick it out to a shooter against Houston, like you got to take that 3. Because if you pump fake and you try to put the ball on the floor and make a play, they're so good at closing out and recovering that like you're not going to really capitalize on that, or that's hard. Or the point is that what Houston wants you to do is to not shoot that 3 and to drive it because they know that they're going to recover, right? But when you look at Kansas, are they that good a 3-point shooting team? No, it's Furphy. It's really just Furphy. Like McCullough can shoot it, of course. Harris can if he ever feels like doing it. Timberlake, when he's not being a bot, can do it. But it's not really Kansas' strength. And being able to stretch Houston and be able to knock down the catch and shoot threes is so big in beating that defense. And then, like I said, you look at what happened in this first matchup. Kansas hit 4 of their first 5 threes. In that crowd, like, boom, you're already up double digits. And, like, they were able to withstand the fact that they were turning the ball over so much because Houston was missing shots. Francis got hurt. And Kansas was just red hot from 3 at the start. So, as you can see, my lean here is definitely towards Houston because I think it's a little bit fraudulent what Kansas was able to do, although they do have a good game plan and personnel to be able to counter what Houston does so well defensively. But I'm a little nervous about Houston's injuries. So, part of me, I think that total might be wrong. I might have fucked up my graphic. Sorry, 1 second. I was going to say my angle for that, if you listen to what I said, my angle for that is kind of the over, right? Because I think Kansas can do some things on the offensive end that counters what Houston does. Like if they're hitting some threes and Adams and Dickinson are making reads out of these 4-on-3 situations when the guard is out here with the 2 guys who trap the screen, like I think Houston can score. And Kansas is 10-7 in the Big 12, right? And this is a league that they win every year. Like, since I've been like knowing what the hell is going on in life, like I don't think Kansas has ever been lower than a 3 seed in the tournament. Like, that's insane. And they're going to be, that's probably where they will be still, because they have a bunch of great wins. Like, they lost 7 league games. They might lose an 8th league game today. That's crazy for what Kansas has been accustomed to. The fact that they were like at least ranked top 3 in the poll at some point this year. Yeah, Joseph, exactly. Roberts is playing with one hand. He's got, correct me if I'm wrong, Joseph, but he's got like all these stitching stuff on his hand that like popped up, and it's like gross. And like Samson says something about like he couldn't even grab something with that hand. So you've got that. You've got no Tugler, and you've got Francis leaving last game early. Like, that's a big problem for Houston, right? It's not like that means Dickinson's 8 stitches. Like, that's a real thing, right? That's a problem. He's playing through it because he's tough as shit. He's a Houston big man, but like, it's not ideal. So do I want to lay this number with Houston? No, I don't, because the injuries and because that Kansas does have some things going for them of how they can score against this team. But I don't really trust, like I said, Kansas didn't guard Houston very well. Houston didn't shoot the ball well. And I think Cryer, Shed, Sharp are going to be able to do whatever they want here. Not whatever they want, but I think they're going to have big games. I don't know. I don't want to talk myself into Kansas just because of these injuries. My over is wrong on my graphic. I'm sorry, I rushed. It's 137.5. I think that could be something to look at if both teams are scoring the ball. I mean, Houston might want to grossify it, but like if they're lacking the depth, like maybe they kind of want to rely on their backcourt on Shed, Cryer, and Sharp, and even Damian Dunn, like who hasn't got a lot of playing time. So that's my context on that game. Numbers are looking a little better. I appreciate y'all. Please stay active in the chat. I know too. Yeah, everyone's banged up, and like I said, Shed's like his knees kind of bothering him. Like, it sucks for Houston. Like, they're such a fun team. Like, it's just been a problem with them with Sasser in the tournament. Like, they just get hurt, and it's sad because I want them to win a championship. I got a future on them. I got them at 22-1 early November, which would be sick if they won that. But yeah, it's hard to lay that number with Houston, with everything going on with Houston. So yeah, 3 years in a row, man. Yep, Sasser at the beginning of the year, then last year Sasser kind of in the tournament, and maybe something else. And then obviously this year, Arsenault, Tugler. Tugler is a freak. He could be an NBA player. He's so good at defense. All right, chat, talk to me. Do you want me to talk about Carolina Duke right now, or is there another game we want to get at? UNLV Nevada. I'll get to that one later. I'll talk about the Deeks later. If you guys want my weight grant, I will give you my weight grant. I will give you my weight grant. If no one says anything, I'll probably get into Carolina Duke, but I'd appreciate if someone does. I'll literally do whatever you want. I'm flexible today. I'm really just talking to my screen right now. I miss Nick. But I got a lot of information today that I want to share with y'all. I got picks. I haven't even shared my best bets yet. I got some plays I love today. What up, Sam? Sam, that's my guy right there. I appreciate you. You want to do UNC Duke? Let's do it. Let's do it. So when I was talking about that 6-point line swing, right? Benny, I'll get to Baylor, Texas Tech right after that. That's another game I like. And we can talk FAU, Memphis too. Perfect. This is the type of shit I like to see. And I see you too with PCU. I already got to PCU con though, if you want to rewind right to the jump. But okay. Carolina Duke. I went back and watched this game. But the key thing is this line swing. Remember? 3 points for home court. So Houston was -2.5 at Houston. Boom. Move it 6 points. It's 8.5. Right? Kentucky was -1.5 at home. Boom. That's an 8-point swing. My math is stupid. I got confused with the negative. But Tennessee's been playing better. You get where you're going to get those points from. Here, it's a 9-point swing. Carolina was favored by 4.5 when they played at the Dean Dome. And it's 5.5 now. That's a 9-point swing. That's pretty huge. So did Duke get that much better? Is this that much of a tax for it being a revenge spot? Or that much of a – shit, my bad. Or is it that much of a tax for this game being played at Cameron Indoor? So that's one thing. I get why this line is what it is, but like based on just history and how this shit works, like there's value on the number purely on Carolina. I will say that before I even get into this game. I would say just from looking at the lines, there's value on taking the points with Carolina. But when I went back and watched that game, here's things that stood out. One, I just thought Duke was in more flow offensively, right? Like Bacot and Filipowski can't guard each other, like straight up. Like Bacot can bully through him, and Filipowski, I'm obviously not a Duke guy as I went to Wake, but like that dude's really good. Like what he can do on the perimeter and on the interior, his passing ability, his ball handling ability, shooting ability. I mean, Baycott, there's a reason Baycott's still playing college basketball, right? Like he's not an NBA big at all. With defensively and the fact that he can't shoot. So, but he can bully inside, right? And he can bully on the glass. So both those guys can find success against each other. Absolutely. Like that's one key thing that I found. Another thing, no Caleb Foster today. That is important. He played pretty well in that first matchup. Another thing, Carolina, a huge thing with Carolina is Howard, Cormac, Ryan, and Harrison Ingram shooting the three ball, right? Because when those dudes are spacing the floor out, they're transfers, they're 4th, 5th year transfers, super old, 3-and-D type guys. That's generous to call Cormac Ryan. I mean, he's a fine defender. But point is, they shot 7 of 14 from 3 in this last game, right? And this last game, the one when these teams played the first time. And man, like if Carolina goes in to Cameron, right, and Duke's bringing doubles to Baycott, sagging off Cadeau like they did a little bit last time, like it's so important that Ingram and Ryan shoot the three ball well. And it's like, when you make a bet, it's like, what am I betting on to happen? If you're betting on Carolina, this is what you're betting on to happen. 1, RJ Davis to have a good game. Duke threw some length at him with Tyrese Proctor, and like he had 17 and 5, like which obviously sounds like a good game, but like for RJ Davis, like that was kind of, he didn't have a great game. 2, like, is Baycott gonna have success? Yes, I do think he is. 3, is Cormac Ryan, Harrison Ingram gonna shoot the three ball well? Like I don't know if they are. Like they'll probably get open looks. And I mentioned this, like they were sagging off Cadeau. Like Mark, the way that teams guard Mark Mitchell, they were kind of guarding Elliot Cadeau, and it's crazy because he's a point guard, but they were really sagging him off. He shot 1 of 9 from the field, and like when Cadeau would get a ball screen, like they would just he would just dribble it up to the free throw line. He's still no one near him, and he's not even shooting it. And then a couple of times he reluctantly took threes. He didn't make them. So yeah, Duke was in way more flow offensively. I was much more impressed. I understand Carolina won the game 93-84. But Duke was in much more flow offensively. Like they looked like the better team. And guys like McCain and Roach, like they have a more dynamic backcourt at this point, right? Because you have McCain, Proctor, Roach all being able to create. And that's not even who you play through. You play through Filipowski, right? Just like all this curl action stuff they were doing in the middle of the floor. Like they were getting in the paint and making plays. Like I thought Duke was the better team, but like Carolina made more threes. They were at home and they were really feeding off that crowd and running and transitioning off misses. Like that's harder to do in Cameron. I don't know if this pace is going to be as fast. I think the unders, like I said, I don't think those guys can guard each other, but I do think the pace of this game is going to be much slower. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was so fast in Carolina. What other notes do I have? Yeah. Since this game, though, like Duke has been on a roll. It's worth noting. And it's like being an ACC hater, I totally get it. Coming from an ACC guy, if you want to hate on the ACC and say the ACC sucks, like I'm not even going to tell you you're wrong. Sorry, that's just how I'm going to feel. What has Duke done since they lost at Carolina? They only lost one game. Like they've been playing really well. They lost at Wake, and this is when Wake played a beautiful game. This is when they were top 20 on KenPom. Hunter Salas didn't miss. Duke had some late turnovers, missed some shots. It was a really high-level college basketball game. That's the only game Duke's lost since this. Obviously, this game's been circled. Obviously, this means a lot to them. And like I said, they were in more flow. I liked what they were doing offensively. You bring it back home, I get why this line is what it is. But because this series is so close always, like what's that stat in the last 100 meetings? Like it's like a 5-point differential. I lean towards taking points just because it's hard. It's hard to lay. Like I think Duke wins this game by 4. But if that's my prediction, do I want to take Carolina? Not really. Anyone in the chat who's got Duke? Who's got Carolina? That was my pitch on the game. Definitely lean Duke to win. I just don't love the number because I think it's a little juiced, and I also don't like backing Duke ever really. Anything? Someone in the chat? We're at a career high on the morning. We're at 21 heads. This is unreal. Drinking my coffee, hanging out with the boys. No one's going to tell me if they took Duke or Carolina. 22. Hell yeah. Nothing. Now making me feel crazy not responding to me. I'll get into Baylor, Texas Tech. Feels like a stay away game? Of course it's a stay away game. It's a rivalry game. It's the game of the day. It's going to have the biggest – it's going to one that people are going to want to watch and bet the most, right, Corey? Like, this, and like I said, it's gonna come down to whether Carolina's guys like shoot threes somewhere. Yeah, F that game, Joseph, right? Like, I'm gonna watch this, obviously. It's gonna be a high level basketball game. How impactful is the Roach Cadeau matchup? So Jeremy Roach is playing super well offensively. Defensively, it's not, I mean, like, they're not that scared of what Cadeau does. Like, the way Duke was guarding him, it's like, we gotta stop Davis, we gotta stop Baycott. And what happened because of that? Harrison Ingram had a really good game. Harrison Ingram had 24. He was like hitting some middies and stuff too, right? And Seth Trimble had a good game. So Duke isn't scared at all of Cadeau. On the other end of the floor, like I said, what Duke has that Carolina doesn't have is more guards that can create. I think Cadeau's super talented. He's been great in flashes, but like his shooting thing is a problem right now with how you can kind of guard, in my opinion. But Duke, it's like, boom, here comes Roach. Let's not forget, Tyrese Proctor is stupid. I obviously thought he was overrated at the beginning of the year. A lot of people did. And then there were a lot of people saying this guy's going to be like an All-American. And like, we kind of got lost in there because he was so stupidly overhyped that like he is still really talented and he's their third best guard. Like that's the luxury of being at Duke and having that recruiting is Tyrese Proctor's your third best guard. And defensively, he can do a good job on Davis because of how much bigger he is, right? In that length and athleticism. But then, yeah, I don't know. I just think Duke's a more balanced offense and they're at home. Yeah, I think Duke in a money line parlay makes a lot of sense. Just like 5.5 is kind of the perfect zone for that because if you pick two teams, you're at even odds basically. But then I can't disagree with this perspective at all either, right? It's a lot of points to get in this type of rivalry game for a Carolina team that's season wide probably been the better team and beat them last time. Scored 93 on them. So there is that. We can talk. I told Benny we get to Baylor, Texas Tech next. So Warren Washington, Texas Tech's big guy, was seen without a boot in practice, and McCaslin had been very optimistic about his status upcoming for the Big 12 tournament and in the NCAA tournament. I don't know if he's going to go today though, and that I really like Texas Tech here because they're a really good offensive team, and I've like it's taken me a while to warm up on them, but like they got shooters, man. They got a balanced offense. They move the ball really well, and they're not great defensively. Like it's more of a personnel issue, but like they're extremely well coached defensively, right? And we know what Baylor is. I've always been a little colder than the market on Baylor, and they've gotten me a couple times, so I'm not like jumping at this opportunity to fade them when you've got Yves Misi, like who's getting better and better at the 5 spot. Super young, talented, like going to be a lottery pick as far as I'm concerned. Like not having Warren Washington as the man in the middle there for Texas Tech is definitely scary, but in front of a rocking crowd, like a team that can score the ball like that, like play that game into the 70s, like I definitely think Texas Tech is worth a look. I might play them. I'm going to have to do a little bit more breakdown before this game starts of what do I think Texas Tech's going to be able to do with Misi? Like, is that a huge problem? But from 1 through 4, I think Texas Tech is right there, if not better than Baylor. Like I really warmed up to Texas Tech lately. Like they've got some really good guard play, and so that's where I'm at there. Like I said, I already talked about PC UConn first, but there wasn't really anyone on, so I'll do it again. It's a lot of points for PC, but dude, he's just never comfortable playing against UConn. Like it's just never comfortable, and I just think Oduro is 9.5 now. It's gonna be so hard for Oduro to hang in there defensively and to not get in foul trouble. And he played with 4 fouls for like a long time in that first matchup. It's just scary, man. And like I mentioned, like maybe it's a UConn like spot, you know, Big East tournaments, looking at the Big East tournament, looking at the NCAA tournament, but Dan Hurley has just such control over that culture right now. Like I don't know if that look ahead spot like exists. Like the one game they lost was that game at Creighton where Creighton played out of their minds in that game, right? And that was coming off UConn crushing Marquette. I don't know. I can't ever say it's a smart idea to go against UConn. I would love to see the Friars win. That would be amazing. Punch your ticket to the tournament. But like guys like Barron, Floyd, Pierre, all gonna have to place a ticket. Are gonna have to be playing so well. And maybe they will. It'll be awesome. I hope I'm wrong. I'm not saying lay the points with UConn. I'm just Like that line is huge for a reason, right? All right, let's get into Nova Creighton. What up, Cole? Sam, you wanted to? Okay. So Nova wins this game in overtime in Omaha last time. That was a crazy game. It was horribly officiated down the stretch. At that time, I was like pretty high on Nova compared to consensus and kind of low on Creighton. And that is like completely flipped on its head since then. With Nova, you're playing better ball lately, but what do we see once again in that Seton Hall game? When a team like can sit down and guard against Nova, there's just periods of the game where like offense is really hard to come by. And it's gotten better. The 3-point like Hausen is a crazy good shooter, but just the 3-point shooting in general has gotten better. Like Dixon is a dude. I just trust Creighton way more. And we've seen Creighton go on the road on these short lines that they've been short favorites on the road all the time. They're 1.5 right here, right? Yeah, Creighton's laying 1.5. So Nova wants to play this game. Bro, I literally did this like 2 minutes ago. I appreciate you, Luke. But if you can just drag the line back, I just talked about that. Maybe we'll get back into it. But in short, I want to bet Texas Tech, but I haven't done it yet. I'm getting to it, Benny. Don't worry. Okay. Creighton as a short road favorite. What have they done? Right? You lost at St. John's, but they won at Butler. They won at Xavier, and those teams had more juice at that time. Like those were teams that were winning games. They lost at Providence in overtime. They couldn't score when they went to UConn. They beat Seton Hall in triple overtime. Creighton's just shown what I'm getting at here is Creighton's shown a lot of composure on the road. And when we talk about like defense travels, some of that is like, is your defensive intensity traveling? Like, is it the effort that's traveling? Like with Creighton, what travels is Ryan Kalkbrenner, right? And that dude is so consistently doing the same thing. Like, and it's because stylistically, like, he guards the same way. Although Villanova can do something with Kalkbrenner that Marquette did in that game. They didn't have Kolek, where they found success scoring the basketball, and it was getting Kalkbrenner as far away from the basket as possible, right? With a stretch five and Ben Gold. It was the game without Oso, and like Dixon can do that same thing. On paper, Villanova has the cats to win. No pun intended. Villanova has the juice and has the players to be a problem for Creighton at home. They should be favored in this game. Villanova should be favored in this game. Let's not forget, Villanova was like 1.5, 2-point dogs to UConn at home. And now you're 1.5 point. I don't know. Like it's the same line for Creighton. Isn't that a little fishy, right? Like I'm shocked that Creighton's here. I like Creighton better as a team. Like I understand they have the little number next to their name and they've been playing better basketball all season, but just compared to what that UConn Nova line was, I'm shocked that Nova isn't favored in a spot that they really need to get into the tournament, right? I'm not saying they're in if they win this. I don't even know. Can someone tell me where Nova is on the bubble right now? I know they're right around there. But obviously, nonetheless, it's a huge game. I think Kyle Neptune said, like, this is our Super Bowl. And I understand it's, like, maybe taking a lot of context. But, like, yeah, like, there is a lot on the line here for Nova. And they're dogs to Creighton. Like, I don't know. I don't know why they're dogs. Point is, I think Villanova can totally get this done in the defensively, like, they should be able to do a really good job on Creighton. But Creighton just keeps getting better and better, and I just trust them more. Yeah, last foreign-ish. Yeah, they need this. This would be huge for them. But, man, time and time again, I'm just find myself being underwhelmed with Villanova. And I think another piece is just I've said this over and over again. They're 280 to get in. That's wild. Wow. I don't know. I mean, there might be some value on no there. They got 13 losses. I mean, they have a bunch of great wins. But I just don't trust Nova. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I've just seen them over and over. Like, this is a team that lost 5 straight, like, in Big East play. And, like, you lost 56-53 to Xavier. Like, you got smoked by UConn a couple weeks ago. Like, you scored 56 points against Seton Hall. And, like, Seton Hall is more physical and athletic. And, like, the way Shaheen has those guys playing, like, it's different defensive style than Creighton. But the point is, like, all this offensive talent that Nova has and all this shooting they have and how, you have your stretch five and Dixon, like you should be able to do so many things. And they just don't. They just don't. Like, and just the minutes, it's just like, Hakeem Hart plays 17 minutes. Like Longino plays 19 minutes. It's like it's so spread out with those guys. Like I don't know, man. Like Justin Moore is not himself, really. Like I thought he was for a second. He went for 15 and 14. Like was hit 4 threes against Providence, hit 4 threes against Georgetown. I just don't really feel it with Nova. They should win this. I'm not saying I'm gonna take Creighton. Yeah, dude, exactly. Like simplify it. Like Kyle Neptune's not a good coach right now. Or they're like I feel bad for the dude. Maybe he just needs time. Maybe it's not his fault, that all the boosters never like, oh, like bring in this guy. Like, and then all of a sudden he has all these pieces of guys and he's trying to make them play Villanova basketball and they're trying. I've been saying the same thing with this team, but yeah, it just stalls. Like when I was talking about that Duke Carolina, right? It's like, what do my eyes tell me when I'm watching this game? When I watched Duke Carolina last game, I'm like, okay, I understand Carolina scored 93 points, but Duke's offense had more rhythm to it. It had more flow. It had more balance. I liked the way that that they were generating shots. And I like the shot selection. With Nova, I just haven't seen a game where they've really just cooked. And it's really gotten me excited about them. Just hasn't happened. Except against Providence last week, low-key. I thought they looked really good in that game. And that's why I didn't bet Seton Hall. It's because Villanova looked really good against Providence. And if they went and beat Seton Hall or maybe did something better than scoring 56 points, maybe I would have been sold on Nova. But I'm not. You know what? I'm probably going to play Creighton. And then Nova's going to win. But obviously I'm split on this one. But, man, we've just seen Creighton execute over and over again. Like Stephen Ashworth getting better has like completely changed what they do. They lost one time to that St. John's team in that desperate spot, and that like made sense. St. John's plays with pace, right? St. John's plays with pace and can like keep up with the Creighton offense or make them a little uncomfortable by not allowing them to set their defense. Villanova's just gonna be chill, in the half court, move the ball around and take forever. And I understand Dixon's got some weight on Kalkbrenner, but Kalkbrenner can go like this and make it tough for him to shoot over the top. And I don't think Dixon can guard Kalkbrenner. And throw Lance Ware in there. He's trash. Sorry, respectfully. Lance Ware, I don't think is very good at basketball. Or I'm going to try one more time. I think Lance Ware is much worse than Eric Dixon at basketball. I don't need to be disrespectful like that. You get the point. All right, enough about that game. Where do we want to go next? I've got a couple plays I haven't even mentioned yet. I could just go there. Talk to me, please. I miss Nick. I need someone to talk to. It's been 38 minutes, and it's just me. That's crazy. I appreciate you all for joining. If you're here, thank you very much. I grind on this stuff. I love doing it, and it's been awesome to be doing this every Saturday and getting action from y'all. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. If you're here with me, why would you not? Help a brother out. Appreciate you. What up, Kaon? How's it going, man? You always ask about Bama. I think you helped me get on to Bama one other time. I kind of talked myself into it. I appreciate you for that. So, I mean, Bama, Arkansas is like literally crazy up and down street ball. Arkansas has been scoring the ball really well lately. Alabama doesn't guard. 173.5 means that if Bama wins 90-80, it doesn't go over. So that's kind of how I think about it. Very cool. Go Tide. Yeah, it's just so high. Like it obviously could go over, but it's like I just don't feel comfortable pressing over on a game that if it was 92-80, it wouldn't go over. But could this game be 110-95? Absolutely. Play the over. Don't play the under. If you play the under, it goes over. You're going to be like, I'm stupid. Sometimes it's how you got to play it. Are you all ready for my Wake rant? Could be long. FAU Memphis, I want to look into a bit more. My gut tells me Memphis wins this game. I'm not going to bet it. I'm going to give myself a little bit of time to go back and watch that first matchup, or at least get through as much of it as I can. My gut tells me that Memphis wins this game. That's kind of all I can say right now. Like, I know they won that first one. Like, just they're so desperate. Naquan Tomlin's a great matchup for Golden. FAU is best when they're running and pushing pace, and like if this game's up and down, that suits Memphis more. I know it's a completely different team basically for Memphis, and FAU's got the same team from that first round matchup last year, but they're still within the Memphis program. Like this is kind of become a bitter rival, right? So I don't know. Noon CBS. I'm not sure I'm gonna play it, but I'm definitely considering playing Memphis on the money line and the spread. Strictly vibes. Not strictly vibes, but you hear me. Well, I will say Arkansas holistically is trending in the wrong direction, but like on a micro level on this season, they're trending up because they're letting battle go, right? And they're scoring. They've won some games, but program-wise, yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Musselman. All right, here we go. Wake's laying 3.5. They've lost 3 in a row. I'm numb. It's fine. I don't care. They don't deserve to make the tournament. I do think they're going to win today. Here's why. Efton Reed and Andrew Carr is the personnel you need at the big spots to stop PJ Holland and Shefflin, right? Like you've got 2 mobile, strong, tall bigs that can move with those guys, stay with those guys, rebound the basketball, keep them off the glass. And I think they're going to do that. Backcourt-wise, Wake at home cooks offensively basically every game, except for last game, where they absolutely sleepwalked and you're down 14-0 to like a bad Georgia Tech team who decides to play really well. So who's low-key won 4 in a row, I think, and they beat Carolina, Duke, and Clemson, and Wake. So if Wake finds a way to make the tournament, that means they'll be in the 4 tournament. Georgia Tech doesn't make any sense. That game was horrible. Wake was horrible. Until the second half, they put everything on the line and played really good ball. But yeah, dude, Wake matches up so well with Clemson. Gerard and Chase Hunter don't guard the ball well, which means that's a game where Hunter Sallis can do whatever he wants, where Boobie Miller can play well, get into the paint, make plays, not turn the ball over, where Cam Hildreth can get to the basket. Obviously you're desperate with Wake losing 3 in a row. I don't think this team has given up by any means or has lost confidence. But you're in a really tough emotional spot after that Duke game to just lose 3 in a row. You've got the DeMar Monsanto stuff off the court, which whether it's directly or indirectly affecting the team is unclear. But to me, it's like that dude has given so much to Forbes in the program and like has been such an electric player, and everyone was so excited to get him back, and it just hasn't worked out. And if he's unhappy or there's a rift there, like it's not good for the locker room. That concerns me a little bit. From an X's and O's perspective, we've seen Wake at a large sample size do at home. I think they should be able to win this game and score the ball easily and keep PJ Hall and Shiflin in check. But I'm not going to bet it because I made a pledge after they blew that. One of their many blown 10-point halftime leads against Pitt was the last time I played Wake. I said I can't do it anymore. I got to put that to the side. Y'all want to hear one of my best bets today? What up, chat? No? Guess I'll just keep my winners to myself. Not really a selfish person, though. I like to help others. Wake's not dead yet. They can still make the tournament. You beat Clemson and you make a move in the ACC tournament, you can get in, but I know. It sucks. It sucks. He's so good. He's so good. The way he gets in the lane and makes plays is pro-level stuff. I wish he was more aggressive. I wish he was a little more selfish, to be honest. I think what Wake's problem is the fact that they don't have a guard that really settles the team in the pace down. Right? You had that with, and it's not just the fact that they put up stupid numbers. Alondes, Williams, and Tyree Appleby, like those dudes made everyone else around them better and settled the pace down. And it's just huge. When you watch a basketball game and a team goes on a 6-7-0 run, right? It's like if you have a guard that can just kind of chill you out and just help get you a good shot the next possession, it means a lot. And I just feel like Wake lacks that presence. And as good as Hunter Sallis is an offensive player, he has not been that, which is what I think Wake is missing. But it sucks. Yeah, okay. Here are 2 plays that I like today. I haven't placed them yet, but here are the two plays that I'm looking at. One is Virginia at home against Georgia Tech. It's gross, I know. I'm sorry, but Georgia Tech has won 4 out of 5. Like, it's so fraudulent to me. I don't think they're good at all. We've seen what Virginia is time and time again this year. They're absolutely horrendous on the road, right? Their first 4 road games this year, you lost at Memphis by 23. You lost at Notre Dame when Notre Dame was horrible and had just lost to the Citadel by 22. You lost at NC State by 16. You lost at Wake by 19. And they just couldn't score. And the second they went down, they just folded. What did they do after that Wake loss? Those games I listed, those were 4 out of 6 games consecutively. They won 9 in a row, and 4 of those games were on the road. And the first road game was they won at Georgia Tech 75-66. Like, Virginia scored 75 points on the road against this team. Like, first and foremost, right? Second, Georgia Tech is not a good offensive team. Like, they got some athletic dudes. Like, Miles Kelly can shoot the ball. Sturdivant and Reeves can be hot and cold. The freshman Nathan George is good. Like, they've got some players, but it is a different beast to go into Virginia and score effectively. And Virginia's lost 2 of their last 3 at home. They lost to Pitt and to Carolina at home. And that team is in a similar situation to Villanova. Virginia and Villanova are very similar in some ways, basketball-wise. And I just think Virginia wins this game 65-45. I think Georgia Tech really struggles to score. I think Virginia does enough offensively. I'll put a write-up on this on Twitter when I decide how much I'm going to put on it. But this spot 7.5 is extremely digestible. I might angle towards the Georgia Tech's team total under, or first half team total under instead. But it's we've seen this movie so many times, right? Like, when you make a bet, like I said this during the Carolina Duke game, right? When you're making a bet, sometimes I like to think, what am I specifically betting on? Like, obviously I'm betting on the team to cover this red, blah, blah. When I'm betting Virginia minus 7.5, I'm betting on Georgia Tech to struggle to run offense, right? And I'm betting on Virginia to score 60, 65, score enough to get 60, 65 points. Like, that in essence is what I'm betting on. And that is something I'm comfortable betting on. And we've seen Tony Bennett in this spot. Like, this team's lost 4 of 6 games. They've lost 2 in a row at home. You're coming back home against a bad team. You're getting a little bit of a discount, right? This line should be 9.5, 10.5, in my opinion. And I know Virginia's gross. I don't think they're good. I don't want them in my tournament. But they're going to win this game without a sweat today against Georgia Tech. I'm very confident in that. We saw Pitt go. Okay, who went into Virginia and beat them? North Carolina. North Carolina scored 54 points. Right? Pitt came in and Blake Hinson was going nutty, and Pitt's the only team that's gone into JPJ and cooked. Pitt's the only team that scored over 60 points in that gym. Georgia Tech will be lucky to hit 55. We've seen this movie before. Don't get caught game log watching. Oh, Virginia sucks. Georgia Tech's good. Georgia Tech just beat Wake, Florida State, and Miami. They're not. I promise you. So we'll see. You're seeing 8.5, 9 now. That's what I get for being slow. Damn it. Are you actually? Wasn't like that an hour ago. Yeah, it's 8.5 now. I was gonna go big on 7.5, 8.5. I'll probably still play, or I might look at the Georgia Tech team total under, because as I said, I don't think they're able to score at all. But I appreciate the heads up. This is what I get for not being on the value. You got to be hitting lines yesterday, especially home favorites are usually the ones that move, right? Especially those Mountain West home favorites been moving a lot. My other one, also in the ACC, is Florida State minus 3.5 against Miami. Did that move too? It's 4.5. I'm over this. I got to play it earlier. I've learned a lot this year. This is my first year being very dedicated in tracking. I tracked everything last year, but I was still throwing out live bets and being a little crazy and not really being systematic about how I bet. This year I've been very systematic. My biggest weakness right now, I think, is not being on lines earlier. Sometimes that it is rare that, Virginia wins this game by 8, and it's I would have had it if I had 7.5 and I have 8.5. That's obviously rare, but it's still just, you want to get that CLV. In the long run, it's going to matter. And once again, Florida State, I saw 3 flat, and now it's 4.5. But I love Miami. I've been rooting for them all year. They're just kind of cooked. Nigel Pack tried to give it a go on senior day, played 14 minutes, didn't score. If he goes today, he's not right. Might be less motivated to go today. because it's not senior night at home. It's, this team's lost 9 straight games, Miami. And I think mindset-wise, you get a little bit more up for the ACC tournament because at least it's like we can go out on a good note here. But if you go win a mid Florida State team, mid's generous, like, is that really changing the fact of how much of a lost season this was? No. It's like there's a dream at the ACC tournament, right? I don't know if Nigel Pack even goes. If I'm Nigel Pack, I don't go today. And Florida State is like one of the perfect matchups for Miami, right? Because of their length and their size and their athleticism and their depth. Miami wins this game if they just are hitting every shot and really moving the ball in flow, and I just don't see that happening. Florida State ends up Miami because they don't want Omier to foul, right? A lot of the times, like if you get to the rim, like they just kind of let you finish it. Like in that first matchup, Florida State was just on run. Like Miami came back because they got hot, and that was when they were healthy and at home, and people still thought they were like a top 25-ish team. But Florida State's length, athleticism, and pressing, like, and filling in gaps on defense, like making it harder for Miami to get into the paint and to spray to shooters and kind of stagnating them a bit. Plus the fact that they can run on them. Plus the fact that they can crash the offensive glass. Throw so many dudes. Make Omier's life as hard as possible. I think Florida State beats them. I think the number's small. Once again, I wish I got in on both of those earlier because I lost value, but I will drop on Twitter. It's really just about my sizing. It's like, is this a 3-unit play or is this a 1.5-unit play? Which I got to figure out based on how much value I see on the number. So I will drop the full card on Twitter for y'all. Thanks again for everyone that's here. I'm going to probably go for like 10 more minutes. So if you have any other games you want me to just kind of rapid fire through some games, like stay active in the chat. I want to see what you guys think, right? Like, who was it? It was Kahan, the Alabama guy. I swear he was like, talk about the Alabama game. He like made a point, and then I started talking it through with Nick, and I was like, oh my God, we're taking Alabama, and they covered easily. So I appreciate y'all's perspective. So, sound off in the chat if you have a game you're really passionate about. Any mid-major locks? No. Yesterday, my lock was Pepperdine, and they scored 52 points and fouled 3-point shooters like literally every play, and it drove me nuts. Yeah, appreciate you, Kahan. All of y'all could help. Seriously, like the more the chat is active, the happier I am. So if you care about me, do that. Like and subscribe also if you care about me. Joseph, you think FAU's play today? Sell me in the chat. Go for it. Like I said, I'm pretty vibes based on Memphis, like on it being a desperate spot, and like the way they looked in that I understand it was at home, but like when that team's up and down and they're playing with confidence offensively and they're actually engaged defensively, like they're like top 15 good. 1,000%. Yeah, I talked about Kentucky earlier. I'm definitely leaning Kentucky. I'm deciding if I'm playing it, but essentially my pitch on that is like Tennessee shot way too well. Like the non-connect guys shot super well in that game at Rupp. Like Kentucky has traveled really well, except for that South Carolina game. Kentucky has more front court depth, and Tiero, Edwards are good bodies if they're at connect. And unless Tennessee just like starts hot, and Kentucky's missing shots and Tennessee builds a lead, like I think Kentucky totally hangs around and has a chance to win today. I'm sorry, I don't have anything for these mid-majors. I'm going to get into the mid-majors, Sunday through Wednesday, like of next week, like as the power conference tournaments are starting. That's like, we got some finals and semis and stuff. Yeah, dude, Benny, I have been like looking for spots to fade Northwestern because of the injury stuff. Like Nicholson, I don't expect to go today. Ty Berry's still out, obviously. Langborg back. But I took Michigan State first half against Northwestern. Oh my God, it made me want to pull my hair out. And I cashed Iowa against Northwestern last week, but Northwestern's good in this gym. Minnesota, as you said, looked horrible against Indiana. And like Christie and Garcia can play, but like Minnesota doesn't move the needle for me at all. Like I don't think they're good at all. Northwestern continues over and over and over again to outperform expectations. They're so well coached. Boo Booey's senior night. You think he's going to lose to Minnesota on senior night? Like, hell no. I'm really looking at Northwestern today for sure. 4.5, I think, is a very digestible number. Minnesota did beat him that first matchup in overtime. But I mean, Northwestern couldn't really score. I don't know. Northwestern's defending better lately. And I just have so much faith in Bowie. Like, he just continues to step up. And, Martinelli's been playing a little bit better. I don't know. My fade Northwestern train, it might come back in the Big Ten tournament, but right now, I absolutely think Northwestern's aside. Maybe Minnesota bounces back, but I don't see it with them. And revenge, Boo Booey senior night, play the Wildcats. Sam, I appreciate you. It'll be better with Nick. It's better to have someone to play off of. I can do a little, be a little bit more organized, take some breaks. Nick has awesome perspective. Nick's been doing this for longer than me. He really understands the lines in the market at a level that my strength is the fact that I'm a sicko and I watch these games and I notice things. That's my main strength. Nick really understands reads and situations as he played at a higher level of basketball for me. Not even close how much better a basketball player he was than me. I can play a little ball. Come on. Mid-range, 15-footer, left elbow. You heard cash. Sorry, that was actually so cringe. I hate myself. But yeah, I appreciate you guys a lot. This is a lot of fun. And I really grinded, especially on those first 3 games. I hope if you guys have a second to rewind, like if you really want to understand like some X's and O stuff that like Kansas and Houston and that Carolina and Duke are trying to do in those games, like rewind, like I really dove in deep there because I was really breaking that down. But thank you guys. And if you're here and if you like and subscribe, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Of course. I think Nova totally has a chance to get it done today. Like they can totally not lock up Creighton, but if they get this game in the half court and they're shooting threes, like they can totally win. I just don't trust them. And that might be a little bit of bias on my part just from what they've done to me in the past. But like what they just did against Seton Hall, like they haven't shown us that they're just gonna like put together a really great offensive performance. And Creighton brings their A game basically every game they play in, except that St. John's game. But Moorhead, always Moorhead. Next question. Yeah, so Iowa State, Kansas State's an interesting game. Iowa State, we just saw them as short road favorites last week at UCF, and they won and covered. Kansas State's a really funky team, but they're like predictably funky, if that makes sense. Like you kind of know what the game's going to look like a bit. One of my least favorite bets I made all year was I bet BYU to win at Kansas State, and there was all the steam on Kansas State. That was a really stupid bet because Kansas State can drunkify and grossify a game, and also Kansas State offensively like has like the one-on-one talent to like expose BYU because BYU is connected and they're tough defensively. But okay, do I think Iowa State is a legit Final Four contender? Honestly, no. I'm not really in on them being a legit Final Four contender. They've had an awesome season. They're a really good team. I just still kind of have my questions. That was a great win they had against BYU. Kansas State at home, they just get it done. They just get it done. The one time they didn't win or like in Big 12 play, Oklahoma's the only team that came in and just like outclassed them. And Ken Palm has this line at 6 and it's 3.5. Like you're already paying such a huge Jerome. Like you're paying the Jerome Tang, the Kansas State home tax. So I don't really think there's any value on 3.5. And if you like believe Iowa State's a championship contender, like it's a good spot to back them, as was that UCF one. But I don't know. These teams already played. I didn't watch that game though, but Iowa State scored 78 and hit 7 threes, 27, 39 free throws. It's going to be a gross game. I don't know. I wouldn't want to go against Kansas State at home here. I think the line's about right. I think Iowa State maybe squeezes it out, but I don't expect Iowa State to go in here and like run offense. Like this game is going to be gross. Turnovers, loose balls, fouls. It's not going to be a pretty watch. I wonder what the total is. $134.5. Yeah. It's going to be gritty, grimy. Actually, the more I think about it, Tyler Perry is going to get harassed in these ball screens. His life is going to be miserable. It's kind of all on Kaluma. I actually do think Iowa State can lock them up. I'm visualizing. I might have talked myself into Iowa State. I think Kansas State's going to really struggle. Maybe it's the under. I think Kansas State's really going to struggle to score. I think Iowa State's defense travels here. But Kansas State really guards at home too. But the thing with Iowa State is they're never pretty to watch offensively, right? It's like Lipsy will just throw up a brick and they'll just hit the ball on the backboard. That happens every game. Momchilovic's taking Dirk shots. He's kind of good at it. And then Jones and Gilbert, like I was talking about Curtis Jones, obviously Robert Jones. But Curtis Jones and Gilbert, like sometimes they're shooting the 3-ball well, and Iowa State that's when they look pretty good, when those two guys are getting in on the action. But Iowa State's got more going on offensively. I don't know. That's a tough one, but I'm not. I wouldn't take. It's so gross. I would say I wouldn't take Kansas State, but like there's just magic with them at home. I'm probably just gonna stay away. I don't want to watch it. But sorry, that probably wasn't helpful at all. That's true. That's true. Joseph, you've been maybe the MVP that you had today. Like to tie Houston for the Big 12 championship, Iowa State get a win in a Kansas win. Would be nice for their season. Be pretty impressive for Coach TJ. Mississippi State 5.5 against South Carolina. An interesting one. South Carolina continues like to not get the market respect that their record would say, and it's because the computers and their KenPom is pretty low. I think they're like in the 50s still. They're 47. That team's tough though. I think these teams are very similar. We talk about like taxes. I think this line is already taxed a little bit. If it's at 5.5 still, I thought Mississippi State was going to go beat Texas A&M. Texas A&M is so gross. I hate watching them play too. I keep using the word gross, but there's some teams I'm just tired of watching play. Yeah, dude, like you watch South Carolina and you're not super impressed, but like they move the ball. They're pretty balanced. Murray Boyles is good. Like sometimes Michi's really hot. I don't love them. Mississippi State sometimes it's like a little bit at home they execute. I definitely lean Mississippi State. I think like Mississippi State Duke is like a good money line parlay today. 2 5-point favorites. You don't love the number, but they probably get done at home. I think that's interesting. But South Carolina definitely tough to get a read on. Quickly, Marquette's a 3-point favorite here. I think Xavier stylistically is a good fit. Like is a good battle for Marquette because when Xavier's playing well offensively, they look pretty good. And I think Xavier can have some success on the glass here. I don't do UCF, or UFC. I knew it's UFC. I don't do that, but I appreciate it. I'm going to lock in my full card soon. Thank you guys for joining. I know the production wasn't amazing today. Definitely better with Nick around. But like I said, we're going to have some conference tournament. We're going to break down the top Power 6 in the Mountain West tournaments, give like a bust, sleeper, and a championship prediction for each of them. It'll be a lot of fun. So head over to the channel for that. If you're here, again, like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And yeah, like I said, I will going to do some final prep in this last hour before the noon games tip off, see if there's anything in that window that I want to play. But I'll get it up on Twitter. I really appreciate all the support. The content's going to be coming this whole month and into April. This is the best time of the year. We got to lock in. We got to find the edges and got to back coaches and players that we like and to not overthink it sometimes. So thank you all for joining. I can't believe I just talked to an hour by myself. That's crazy. But yeah, seriously appreciate you all. We'll see you on Twitter. Good luck to everyone today. And yeah, we'll see you next time.